You know, Steam Early Access has been here for a while, and if you were to try a sampling of any of those games, you would probably walk away from the experience with a shopping cart full of shit and 1 or 2 gems if you're lucky. It's not a surprise anymore that companies, developers, and shitheads in general are using early access to sell a game long before it actually should be sold, let alone finished. This wouldn't be much of a problem in a perfect world because that's what the program is for, right? And for a few games, it's true. Games like Dead Cells, Darkest Dungeon, Owlboy, Space Engineers are all good examples of how well the early access program can work. But the vast majority of games in early access fall into one of 2 camps. Games that charge you money to play before petering out in terms of updated content, essentially leaving you with a broken product, or 2, games that should be complete but don't actually ever release from early access while selling you things like expansion packs, DLC, and microtransactions. I'm looking at you, Ark. So why do games do this? For the first camp of games, those that charge you and then leave you with a piece of shit that you paid for, are simply people who are using early access to sell an unfinished project with no intent to actually finish it. One of the highest profile games like this is Goddess, the brainchild of that fucking skink Peter Molyneux. Or Infestation Survivor Stories, which initially launched under the name of The War Z. Now, The War Z actually got caught attempting to do this shit, and Steam actually stepped in and refunded everyone who purchased the game. The company then decided to relaunch the game under a different name in an attempt to escape the tsunami of bad press while still attempting to make a big buck. Or Towns, which actively avoided the term beta or early access in an attempt to sell their unfinished game at full price while then abandoning the game and attempting to start a sequel. Okay, so what about the second camp of dickbags? These guys usually use the early access program as a deflector shield for criticism from both professional critics and their own customers. The game is still missing an important selling feature of the game, but we're in early access, so it's on the way. We totally promise. Game-breaking bugs been around for a few months with no fix even hinted at? It's a beta, guys. Bugs are to be expected. Company took a new direction with most of their player base doesn't like it. We're experimenting with new development methods because our game is in beta. What's truly insidious about this reasoning is that some of the customers believe it. Any criticism is met with blasts from other customers that parrot the same bullshit excuses that developers want you to swallow in the first place. They want you to believe that they should be free of criticism because they gave you the privilege of paying for their game in beta that you bought with money that you're not getting anything out of anymore. Somehow that relieves them of all responsibility for things such as making sure their game is fun to play or even playable in the first place. Now, to be fair, criticism for some things can be overlooked because it is a beta. As a matter of fact, being in a beta should steal some of your critique and make it to where you would only complain about things that are applicable. But criticism for things that are applicable are always okay. And forgive me if I'm absolutely fucking right, but once you start charging money in any way to play your incomplete game, any and all criticism from a paying customer should be initially taken as valid, because you have a financial responsibility to your customers at that point, and no amount of "it's just a beta" whining will change that. The game industry saw the golden egg of opportunity when beta access was a fairly new thing. As a matter of fact, it wouldn't even be called beta access at that point, it would be called a release candidate, which is a step in the production value of a game, which means this game is pretty much complete, but we don't know if we want to add anything to it. They saw people chomping at the bit to play highly anticipated games just a few weeks or months early, ignoring bugs and other broken things because they expected these things to be fixed on release. And in the early years, they had good reason to believe that. Games with beta accesses at the time were generally almost completely finished at that time of access. Developers use beta access programs as a form of widespread playtesting, using the data collected to prepare their products for the actual launch date. But developers decided to use that built-in hype for beta access to make more money. At first, this was a way to boost pre-orders. Pre-order the game today and get exclusive beta access a few days before the release date. You know, some games still do this. Destiny 2 comes to mind, with things like beta access weekends, where everyone who pre-ordered can try the game before release and maintain the hype. Hopefully those people in the access will tell their friends about how awesome the game is, and more pre-orders will get purchased. You can see why companies like this idea. Now, you can still see the effects of this today, where the excitement around a game launch is almost as much fun as playing the game itself. You get together with your friends, you discuss your team composition, what you're most excited for, pore over pre-release images and rumors, and so forth. For the most part, these beta access programs are okay, if it is a little bit cynical since it plays right into pre-order culture, which is a load of horseshit. Where beta access programs went wrong was when the term beta began to get pushed earlier and earlier into development. Soon, beta went from release candidate, or almost finished, to we've still got a lot of work to do. This is not okay. It's not good for customers or developers because charging for a game while still under development is a PR time bomb. We all know how often things change with closed games in game development. Some features have to be cut, some features are experimented with, art directions can change, entire locations get nixed or changed. The whole process is highly mutable. Customers expect change when they sign up for beta access. But when they purchase a game, they don't necessarily want to change from that game. So everything you do as a developer to bring your game closer to release is just going to piss a lot of people off. And developers don't fucking care. They already got your money. So if they don't like the game after a few months, they don't give a shit. That's what you get for buying a game in beta. So what, Varixis? We shouldn't buy games in beta? No, feel free to do so if you wish. It's your money. I can't tell you how to spend it. But rather than spending your money on a whim, I encourage a healthy amount of skepticism. Does a beta for a game look really good? Do your research, check out user reviews, look at the publisher, read professional critics from writers you trust and share your taste in games. If it's a free beta, dive on in and see if that game is really worth your time and money on release. Now see, I dodged a $60 bullet by playing the For Honor beta on PC, and I really wanted to like that game. But because of the direction that some of the game mechanics took and the lack of fucking dedicated servers, I decided against this. So this is a thing where beta can be a good thing even if you don't end up with the game afterwards. In contrast, I'm holding out for the Dauntless beta because their transparency seems great, and most reviews I've read have been at least mildly impressed with the game. But most importantly, if you do buy beta access to a game, remember that you always have a right to criticize the game and its developers for their actions. You brought that right when they charged you for entry. Thank you for listening to another games industry rant video. I might be doing a lot more of these. I don't know. These are just topics that seem to have gotten under my skin, and I feel like making a video about them will make me feel better. And I do kind of feel a little bit better. And hopefully you guys will, again, get something out of this. That's why I make these. I hope to spread the word and help you guys make better decisions when it comes to your video games. Because you really don't need a shitty video game that you shelled out $60 for. And I hope it was only $60. Because a lot of games now are getting to be even more money. But that's probably another video. Thank you guys for tagging along, and I will see you in the water next time. Bye-bye.